So these things which we need to keep in mind while preparing a data collection plan, which is the first and foremost activity of the measure phase of Six Sigma, wherein we are trying to see that what we need to measure. This is a template for data collection plan. As you can see, the operational definition. So we have taken an example of a metric which is called cycle time, and it is clearly mentioned what is the operational definition of the cycle time. Cycle time is an opportunity on which we are working upon. So this is an example that we've taken into consideration from date of receipt of request at office online platforms to date of closure of the request in that. So it's a clearly defined definition of cycle time. Now, because if this definition is not clearly documented, every project team members should have their own understanding on how to calculate the cycle time. Therefore, it is very, very important and critical to document the operational definition so that everybody in the team is on the same page, which says that how we calculated the cycle time. Second is a data type which is called continuous or discrete. So it's a continuous kind of a data, which we'll talk about what is the difference between continuous and discrete. Metric formula that we've taken into consideration is date of request closure in the system minus date of receipt of the request at office. Then it's defect definition, request which is not closed within a day from the date of receipt of request is called the defect definition. Then we have the data source, which is a monthly dashboard, frequency report, which is daily or monthly, responsibility for data collection, the name of the person. So these 4, 5, 6, 7, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 are the key important components which needs to be there in each and every data collection plan. This basically talks about that what is operational definition, who is going to give us the data, what is the formula that we have calculated. All these things are being done to ensure that the project team members are on the same. Okay. Now we will get into the types of data. This is very, very important. There are two types of data that we look into consideration. One is a continuous data, and second is a discrete data. We'll understand what is continuous data. Data which can be broken down into smaller units and which will still make sense. That is called continuous data. Data which can be measured. Some example of continuous data is like time. Time can be broken down into different units. We can say 5 hours. We can say 300 minutes. We can convert into seconds and all. Price, height, weight, temperature, distance. All these are examples of continuous data. And if you look at these examples, you can see all of them can be broken into different smaller parts, and it will still make sense because it has different units into it. Okay. Now we'll talk about what is a discrete kind of a data. Discrete kind of a data which cannot be broken down. All type of data which is other than continuous data is called discrete data. There are different types of discrete data that we will discuss. The first is a binomial data, which is yes, no, pass, fail, true, false, 0, 1, which has two components, either yes or no. So this is also a discrete data, okay, because this can't be broken down. Then the second type of discrete data is known as count, which is like number of people appeared for the exam, number of people cleared the exam, number of people attempted the exam, number of people passed, number of people failed. So this is also a discrete data which cannot be broken down. The third type of discrete data is known as nominal data. Data which have names or labeled. Okay. Example, department A, department B, department C. Okay. So these are nominal data, so which can be used for comparison. Then the fourth type of discrete data is called the ordinal data. Data which arrange in some order or sequence. That's why it's called ordinal, because it is in an order. Like excellent, very good, good, fair, poor. So it's an order. So we could have used the either way also: poor, fair, good, very good, and excellent. Okay. Strongly agree, disagree, strongly disagree. Cold, mild, hot, very hot, and percentage type. Percentage is also a data which can be defined in percentage, which can also can't be broken down further. So these are some of the types of discrete data with some examples talked about: binomial data, count data, nominal data, ordinal data, and percentage data. Okay, let's move ahead. Now we will get into why sampling. We will get into sampling. Sampling is a process of collecting only a portion of the data that is available or could be available and using the data in the sample to draw conclusions. Generally, the larger the sample, the greater will be the representation by universe result, the greater value. So sampling is basically a technique to represent the entire population or the universe on behalf of the entire universe or the entire population. We collect a sample and basis that we draw the statistical inference. That is called sampling. And why sampling is required? Why can't we go for the entire population? Because it's often very impractical or too costly to collect the data. So for example, if I am a shoe manufacturer and if I want to produce shoes, then in order to do a survey to check what is the customer demand, I'll have to speak to the entire population. Okay, which is very, very time consuming and very, very costly as well. And therefore, I would go for a sample wherein I would have samples being collected from each and every stratas, every quotas, age group, household, income, occupation, and all other things that I'll keep into consideration while calculating the sample size. So let's understand why sampling is required first. As I said, it's often impractical or too costly to collect all the data. There are sound conclusions can often be made from a relatively small amount of data. Okay, so we don't have to come up with each and everything. It is a small amount of data which can be used. The third thing uh, why sampling is required is because sampling is going to save a lot of time because when if example if I going to capture the entire population, it's going to take some ages, some years to complete, and then maybe in that between the system get changed, the technology get changed, and therefore it is not practical to go for the entire population. Size of the sample is decided on the basis of below factors: degree of accuracy, because how much accurate I want to be. If I want to be accurate, I want to go for more sample size. Availability of time, if I have time available, then I can have more sample size, and vice versa. Availability of money, size of the questionnaire, size of the universe. Okay, so and the last but the not the least, which is the number of resources available. So all these things are very dependent on the kind of sample size that I'm looking for. So looking at this diagram, where you can see that there is a population of 50,000 and I have come up with 100 samples. And if you notice here, it has not only captured 100 samples, they have tried to ensure that the sample is taken from each and every stratas. Okay, so you see from top line they have taken first and the last, from the second line they have taken, and from the third and the fourth line also. So to ensure that we are not doing any kind of bias sampling, we are coming up with a clear representation when we are doing the sampling. Okay. Now under sample size, now we're going to talk about how to come up with the right sample size. And for that, we need to understand two different concepts. First is called as a confidence level, and the second is called as the confidence interval. The confidence level tells me how sure I am. It is expressed as a percentage and represent how often the true percentage of the population who would pick an answer lies in the confidence interval. Okay, in a nutshell, I have a population of 10,000, and how much confident I am for that population, the kind of sample that I'm going to take, that is a confidence level, which is also known as the precision. As per the industry standard, we go for 95% confidence level and 99%. Okay. Uh, all the service industries go for 95, and sometimes the manufacturing go for 99. It all depends upon the cost of the default. If I want to be more accurate, if I want to go for a more sample size, then I will be 99% certain or confident. If I am kind of okay with the 95% confidence level, then I would go for 95%. Okay. The second thing which I want to understand is the confidence interval. The confidence interval is also called the margin of error. Is it plus or minus figure usually reported in newspaper or television opinion poll results? For example, if we use a confidence interval of 4 and 40%, 47% of your sample picks an answer, you can be sure that if you had asked a question of the entire relevant population between 43%, which is -4, and 50%, 57%, 51%, which is +4, would have picked that answer. So confidence interval is a margin of error. How much margin of error I can live with, it depends upon me that how much margin of error I want to live with in order to draw a conclusion. So that's what is a confidence level, and the confidence interval plays an important role. Okay, so now I would like to show you that how to calculate the right sample size. For example, if you're doing a project and you want to do certain analysis, okay, and you have a population, you have a data being populated, and you want to come up with how much sample size should I go for to ensure that I am having the correct confidence level and the good confidence interval. So let me show you how you can do it. Okay.